Hi, I'm Beth from So Country, and today's tutorial is for the Mirum pouch from Lacus Designs. Yes, I'm doing another tutorial on another pouch, and I don't feel the least bit bad. I love sewing pouches. They're one of my favorite things to do because it gives me kind of immediate gratification. I get to use beautiful materials, fun patterns, so I'm practicing my sewing skills while also making something beautiful. At Christmas time, these are great to give as gifts. These are also great for my craft shows, and it just brings me joy to sew quick, fun patterns. Another reason why I sew pouches is not just because they're fun to make, but because there's a lot of free versions. And while this pattern isn't free, it is only $2.17 for this pattern, and you get 3 different sizes. This is the large, this is the small, and today the video I'll be sewing up the medium, so you'll get to see all size comparisons. And there, you can tell there's a big difference. So lots of times when you get patterns, it might be like there are different sizes. It might just be a little bit of a difference, but this one's a really large difference. So you get really 3 really unique sizes. I'm trying to do better in my sewing room with using the supplies I have and using the patterns I have, or getting free patterns and things like that. Not because I'm against buying new stuff. It's just because I want to make sure that I'm using the stuff I've already bought. So in a lot of my videos now, you may see that my zipper pulls, like on this one, don't exactly match my zipper teeth. Typically I'd be like, oh, I need to go buy red zipper pulls, but I'm trying to be very conservative with what I buy and just using what I have, so I take joy in the things I've already purchased. So this pattern is one I've had for a long time and I hadn't sewn it yet. And so I really wanted to do this tutorial and sew these pouches and make some great Christmas gifts and use some of my favorite fabrics. My fabrics that I'll be using in all of these is from Oh So Lovely. It is a canvas. The only thing I've interfaced these pouches with is a medium weight interfacing. I use mine from Royal Pixie. I use their Pixie Light for everything, and that's all I have. I don't have foam, I don't have Decaville Heavy, I don't have fleece, and you can see they stand up perfectly on their own. This is the large, and this is the one that I thought, oh, I should probably add something extra to this. I love the structure on this. I definitely would not have added anything else to it. I feel like it has great structure. You can smash it still, but it comes right back up and it can hold its shape just fine. There's no problems with it. It opens up really wide. You can see all the way down to the bottom. And then when you open it up, you have this huge opening. You have these accordion little sides here, and I've not sewn a pouch with accordion sides, and that was one reason why I want to do that. They're really cute when you look at it from the side, and you could use a contrast print here too. This is an amazing pouch. Comes together really quick. You're going to be surprised. You cut it out really quick. You don't have a lot of cost in materials because you're not adding fleece or foam or anything like that. So I'm going to have a link for the fabrics. I'm going to have a link for the pattern. All of that's going to be in the description. But let's go ahead and get started making the Mirum pouch from Lacus Designs using Oh So Lovely fabrics. Let's go over the pieces that we're going to need to make this pouch. You're going to have your main panel. Now I'm going to have all of mine be the same print for both the exterior and the lining, but you will have 2 exteriors and then 2 linings, so you'll have 4 of these cut out in total. Let me just hold up one so you can see the shape. That's the shape, and again, like I said, I'm using a canvas, a cotton canvas, and I'm also using a medium weight interfacing on the back. I went ahead and marked the centers just at the top of all 4 of these pieces. So that's the main body of the pouch. For these sides, for that little accordion side, you're going to cut out 4 pieces. I'm using, again, all the same print. You could do 2 exteriors and 2 linings. I want to point out that on this pouch, where it opens up so wide, you really want to make sure you use a pretty print on the inside because it will be very noticeable. Sometimes when we have a pouch that has a small opening and you're just putting your hand in there, you don't really see it a lot, but where this one opens so wide, I would definitely go ahead and splurge and use a pretty print on the inside and the outside, exterior and lining, so that if you give this to someone as a gift, or even if you're just using it yourself, you can enjoy it because the lining is really visible on this bag. So 2 exteriors, 2 linings of these side pieces. And you do get pattern pieces for all of these. I am going to bind this bag. I'm only going to bind the two side corners where I box them. So this is all the binding I need. There is an option in the pattern to just birth the bag, but this is the method I prefer. It is so much easier, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And I promise, even if you hate binding, you can manage binding these two little corners and it won't be a problem at all. I just use waterproof canvas. It does not even match because I wanted to use a non-fraying material, and I just cut two little pieces. I'm not worried about them matching at all because they are down on the bottom, just like on the large. You can't really see because I use the same ones on this one, and you can't see those really well. So don't worry a bit about how the waterproof canvas if it doesn't match, but I do suggest just using something simple like that. Of course, if you already had some pre-made binding, do that, but you would just have to fold your raw edges in. So that's the binding. I'm going to be using 2 zipper pulls. You don't have to use 2 zipper pulls, but I highly recommend it. I'm using a piece of number 5 zipper tape, and I went ahead and cut mine longer than the pattern says. I almost always do that. I just like the ease of it. Yes, I'm wasting a little bit more zipper tape, but it does make for a more enjoyable sewing experience for me, and I'm okay with that. I did go ahead and mark the center on both sides of the zipper tape, and just to help me with putting everything together. So these are all the pieces we need. Let's go ahead and talk about the first steps we're going to do. Since there's not a lot to cut out, let's go ahead and get into it. We are going to take each one of these side pieces and we're just going to fold them together, right sides together, matching up the raw edges. Let me get some clips to clip those in place. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and press that flat so it's not sticking up. You can take it over the iron if you wanted to, but you don't really need to. What you're going to do is you're going to sew with the seam allowance given in the pattern across the top and the bottom. So you'll see me doing that with all 4 of these pieces. So let's go ahead and clip them now, and then we'll get to sewing. So like I said, I'm going to start sewing at the top and the bottom. I'm going to put my needle down right there against that folded edge. So I'll put the needle down right here, sew across, back stitching when I start and stop, and then do the same thing at the bottom. So now I have all 4 of these sewn, and while 1/4 of an inch is not a big seam allowance, I don't need to trim it down. I have noticed whenever I have anything with corners here on the edge that I like to do a little bit of trimming on the corners of those just to help the seam not be bulky. So what I do is I come in a little bit close with my scissors and I go at an angle and kind of just round that curve a little to take off just a little bit of that bulk there. Same thing over here. I don't care about trimming the whole seam allowance down, just to get some of that edge off of there. So when I push this out, there's not as much bulk in those corners that you have to try to compress and get to lay nicely. I'm just going to pop these out, and I'll use my stiletto to poke out these corners to make sure they all look nice. I'll put a couple clips in place, and then we'll sew around each 4 of these, which will be top stitching along the 3 sides and then just basting that back closed. Okay, so I have all 4 side pieces sewn. I top stitched around the 3 sides and I basted on the bottom. It's probably smartest if you baste this edge first because that's the edge that could shift, and once you get that kind of held together, then you can make sure you get a perfect top stitching around the other 3 sides, but it's not really too big of a deal. Just maybe a tip to help if you're new to sewing and need some extra help with things. Set these aside. We're going to go ahead and get the zipper attached first. I'm going to pull out my 2 exterior pieces. So for me, mine all look the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check my placement of the moths to see which ones I like the best. I think I'm going with these 2. And so these 2 will be my exterior pieces. What I'm going to do is a little bit different than the pattern, just by a slight bit. Whenever I make tutorials, I just do what works best for me. So always know that the pattern is written with the designer thinking this is the best way that works for the pattern. It's been tested, things like that. Sometimes people who do videos, we find different things work better for us. So look at both and see which works better for you in your sewing room. But both will end up probably with the same result. For me, I'm going to tear this zipper apart. The designer has you sew it to get while it's together, but this is just the easier method for me. So I'm tearing it apart and I'm going to attach each side of the zipper individually, and then at the end I will add my pulls on and then put it together. The main difference is that I'll have to be a little bit careful when I add the pulls to make sure that I don't get mine out of like they're not shifted wrong and like not matching up perfectly, but doing it this way gives me a little bit more freedom, I feel like, and easier sew for me. So that's why I do it. Okay, I'm going to take the center mark on both of these and match them up. And it's a little hard to get the perfect fit unless you clip everything on each, like the zipper all the way down. Otherwise you might not have it match up perfectly, because like the end, you can't just eyeball that curve. Go ahead and clip it so that you can make sure that you start at the right place so the center of your zipper doesn't shift. If it does shift, it's not a big deal. You'll just have to be even more cautious when you're adding your zipper pulls that you have the same length of zipper tape on both sides and you don't get it shifted incorrectly. So I'm only going to find my center and do one side of clips. The other side I'll just sew organically. What I do first is I baste the zipper on. That means I'm just going to attach this with 1/8 of an inch. My zipper tape is right sides together with my exterior. I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch from both the raw edge of the zipper tape and the exterior to attach it. It's just going to start here at the side, at the top of the cutout, and I'm going to go all the way around. I'm going to back stitch whenever I first start and stop sewing. Okay, I have my first side done. I'm not going to show both sides just so I'm saving you guys a little bit of time, but I will repeat that same process with the other side of the zipper and the other exterior panel. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull out 2 of these side panels. Doesn't matter which 2. You can figure it out if you're like, oh, I want this to be the front and my side panels to be front, but it's not too big of a deal. But what you'll do is you'll have the large part, the bigger part at the top, and this will be your bottom. You're going to come over to your side. This right here where you, let me hold this up so you can see it and pull the zipper out of the way. So right there at the top of your cutoff is where you're going to measure from. Once you find that measurement of how far up you go from your pattern, you are going to place the raw edges together. The large portion will be at the top, the short portion will be at the bottom. You're measuring up from the top of this cutout piece. I'm going to add some clips in place. And this is the way it'll look on all 4 sides. So let me show you again on this side. So right now I have exterior, I have the zipper tape, and then I have the side panels on top of that. So there is a little zipper sandwich there. What we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and baste these side panels into place using just an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'll back stitch when I start and stop. When I put the lining on top, that's when I'll get that full seam allowance in. So this is what I have so far. I'm going to pull out one of my lining panel pieces. I'm going to take it and I'm going to place it right sides together with the exterior piece. I'm going to match up the center marks and then go ahead and clip all the way around this edge. Everything should line up perfectly, but if not, it's just probably you're like me and you're not the best with cutting, because I'm not. And you can just make it as even as possible, and you can always trim any overhang. It's not an issue at all. When I'm clipping around this curve, I'm pushing those zipper teeth flat. When I sew around this curve, I'll make sure that I have my finger there, making sure that the zipper teeth are not like coming up, or the tape is not getting bended or folded, and keep a very smooth. You can see it's trying to do it right there. Like if I would sew over that, that would be really ugly. So I'm filling it and pushing it down, but I'll also do the same thing with each stitch I take. I will make sure everything is laying flat and I'm not sewing over a fold. Okay, you can see mine matches up perfectly. It may on the other side, it may not, depends on how I cut it. I'm not the best at cutting. I cut kind of like lazy, like I will sometimes cut while I'm sitting on the couch, which you know is not the proper way to cut. I'm going to just push the teeth down, roll that edge a little so the curves match up perfect. Same thing again, teeth down, roll it up. Look at me, both of my sides matched up. It must have been a boring part during the book I was listening to or the TV show I was watching, and I could actually pay attention and get it to match up perfectly. So now I'm going to sew all along these clipped edges with the seam allowance given the pattern, back stitching when I start and stop. Okay, I'm coming up to a curve. I'm making sure it's flat, push it down. And like when you push one part down, another part might flip up. That's okay. Just sew over the flat part. If you get to a part that is bumped, you can smooth it out then, but just flatten the immediate part you're sewing over. This one's bunched up a little bit and it's not smoothing out. So what I'll do is I'll just take my finger in there, take off my clips and push it down and then hold it. Anytime you have a zipper on a curve, it has a tendency to want to do that. So you can see that one's completely bunched up. Let me get, I might actually have to go on the bottom of this one. And that's just what zippers do. It's not a problem with the pattern or the zipper tape. It's just the nature of how things will do on a curve. So now that I have that sewn together, what we're going to do, get all these clips out of the way. What we're going to do now is we're going to flip this right sides out. So I'm just going to pull from the bottom, push it out. It'll take you a minute to get your curves pushed out really nicely. And then we're going to top stitch around that zipper. I always like to top stitch from the exterior just because I can watch what it's doing, and that's the part that's going to matter the most to me. I'm going to just use my fingers and smooth out the bumps there. It's not too bad, but if you're nervous about it or don't like that extra bulk, I should say, you can use pinking shears around that. But I really hate to cut zipper tape, so I usually don't, and I just finger press it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my side panels out. So when I top stitch, I'm going to start here at the bottom, and my side panels will be hanging out. So I'll be sewing through the seam of them, but not through the exterior part at all. So they'll be like this. This is my exterior. Here's my side panels. I'll start here at the bottom, top stitch an 1/8 of an inch away, all the way around, locking in my stitches on both sides. Okay, I've got that top stitched all the way around. So now what I'm going to do is complete those same steps for the other pieces I have left. My exterior back and lining, and the other zipper tape, and the other side panels. So what we have now is we have our front and the lining, our back and the lining. I have my 2 pieces of binding left, and I have my 2 zipper pulls left. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip both of these inside out. So now that I have them inside out, what I will do is I will take the bottom of both of the exteriors and put them together. I will start matching up on one end. Get my zipper tapes out of the way. So I'll start matching up the corners at one end, and I'll clip all the way across that straight bottom edge. So there's the exteriors clipped together. Now let's push that out of the way and do the same thing with the 2 linings, clipping across that bottom edge. So now I have the 2 exterior bottoms clipped right sides together, the 2 bottom interiors clipped right sides together. This is where the zipper tape's coming out the side on both sides, so you can see that clearly. What we're going to do is for the exterior, we're going to sew all the way across. Let me see, is that my exterior piece right here? Nope, that's my lining. So for my exterior piece, what I'll do is I'll just sew all the way across the seam allowance, give them the pattern, back stitching, and whenever I start and stop. For the lining, I'll start sewing here, back stitch, but I'm going to leave that opening in the middle about 4 inches so that I can turn the bag right sides out. And so leave your opening here, sew on both sides. So let's go ahead and sew these 2 pieces together. You'll want to kind of push the zipper tape out of the way so it doesn't get caught in your stitching. You should only be sewing through 2 layers here. Well, I forgot to leave my opening. Let me go back and do that. We all make mistakes. I just said it and here I forgot to do it. It's okay. It happens. I'm not even going to worry too much about it because it's not like a big bag, so I'm not even going to go back and leave a like back stitch because where it's not big, I won't tear it up too much. Like, it'll have plenty of room to spread. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm getting at. So anyway, now that I have that done, let's get this hole big enough so I can turn the bag through. Let me make sure that that is my interior I did that on. Yeah. So what I do is I go for the exterior first to start turning it through. Okay, once we got everything turned right sides out, this is what it should look like. You have your opening here on the lining. Your exterior's completed. Our sides are, of course, completely opened. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and close up this lining hole. So I will just push the sides in. I got some loose threads where I kind of tore mine instead of actually stitched it, so I have to clean those up. But I'll just push those together, put a few clips, and then whenever I turn up whenever I'm closing up a turning hole, I always sew as close to the edge as possible. So I'll only stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from this folded edge. It's time to work on our corners now. Before I do that, I need to put my zipper pulls on my bag. This is my lining, so I'm going to go over to the exterior. And what I like to do is I like to make sure everything matches up. So I'm going to match up these two side pieces. I'm going to put a few clips in here so this doesn't shift. Or I might throw some clips around, one way or the other. Okay, so now that I have those matched up, I'm going to pull my zipper tape to see if it's even. And I can see that mine is not. Just means I've shifted, not got things perfectly. So what I'll do is I'll put a clip on my tape to hold it in place so I can cut them evenly, so I can add my zipper pull on without any kind of like big gaps on it, and it matches up smoothly. We'll do that same thing on the other side. Matching up my sides. And this zipper tape should be off as well since my other side was. Sometimes I've done these. I've done 3 of these, and one was perfect. The other one needed trimmed, and this one needs trimmed too. So obviously I'm not good with that part. Okay. So just a little bit of shifting. So now what I'm going to do is just put a zipper pull on each side. Okay, there's my first zipper pull. Let's go ahead and move that clip out of the way. I'm just going to kind of zip this up a little bit, get it out of the way there so it doesn't fall off while I'm pulling with the other one. Okay, so now that we have these zipper pulls on, what we're going to do is box up the corners. I'm doing this. I'm going to be doing this from the lining side, so let's clip this out so that I'm looking at the lining. So this is the way you should have it. You're looking at the lining, your zipper tape's coming out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to match up the seams on the bottom. You can choose to either butterfly these seams or have them going in opposite directions. Whichever is your preference, whichever you like to do, doesn't really matter so much. I'm choosing to butterfly mine. That means I'm going to push both of these seams open. So there's the seam on the bottom of the lining open. It just slipped. Sorry guys, it's so hard to do things on camera because you're used to doing things with the bag close to your body, but doing them far away, it's a little trickier. I'm going to put a clip right there to keep that seam open. I'm going to pull that line, the exterior, because you can see they're both in there. I'm going to do the same thing with the exterior, just opening that seam's all I'm doing. The seam on the bottom. Open it. I'm going to stack it directly on top of the lining. So both of those seams now are going to match up perfectly. I'll get my hands out of the way to show you this so that you can see it clearly and understand what I'm doing. This is not as hard as I'm making it look to be. I'm just like fiddling around like crazy and it's not bad. Okay, there we go. So we're looking at the lining. You can see I have my zipper pull up here. Here's my side pieces. The zipper comes down. All I've done so far was just clip those two seams open and stack them on top of each other. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my fingers in the sides and pull that apart. Push them flat. And I'm going to make sure, I'm going to stick my finger here and make sure I got it smooth. And it's going to look like what you traditionally would expect a boxed corner to look like. So my exterior and the lining are being sewn together. They're both in here together. So you can see I'm going to be sewing through 4 layers. The 2 exterior sides of this box corner and the 2 lining sides of this box corner. Again, stick my finger here, smooth that out. I want my zipper teeth directly in the middle where that bottom seam is. Putting the clip there. I'm going to put 2 clips here on each side. Oops, broke a clip. I'll move this one out of the way, and so you can see it's flat. Bottom seam here, zipper teeth there, everything's pinched together. This is what it looks like. I'm going to take this over the machine. Your side pieces are not involved in this. They're not going to be sewn. I'm going to flatten everything out, and I'm just going to sew across it. If you feel more comfortable so you can watch your zipper tape, you could sew it from this way, no problem, whichever way you want to do. If you want to make sure that the zipper teeth do not shift from that middle seam, you're going to sew with that seam allowance given the pattern straight across. Back stitch when you start and stop. When you go over your zipper teeth, if you want to go back a time or two, you can, just for a little more extra security. And make sure your zipper pull is up far enough so that you don't sew over it. That wouldn't be good. Okay, now I always like to check to see if I did straight. I really didn't do a good job being straight. I kind of went up a little, so I'm going to go back over this and do a better job of being straight. Because if not, I'm afraid it would look bad. So I just lost my seam allowance there. Yep. Much better. Okay, now what you do is you just trim your zipper tape. You take out a piece of bonding. Let me make sure that's about, yep, that's good enough for my width of it. I just take that piece of waterproof canvas that I cut out for my bonding and I fold it in half, wrong sides together. That's all I do. Then I just simply encase that seam that we just sewed. I'll put a clip just on each side. And then I'm going to come over to the machine and sew it with that same seam allowance you just used. Since I'm using waterproof canvas, I don't have to worry about anything being fraying since my edges are raw. I'm just going to trim off the extra there and trim off the threads that are hanging off. Okay, that side is done. I'm going to repeat the same steps for this other side. I'll do that off camera. My camera's getting a little hot and I'll let it cool down for a few minutes and then we'll come back to finish the bag. Okay, so I have the other side sewn up, so everything is done. We have the zipper pulls on, everything's good to go. Last step is to simply top stitch both of these sides together. So what I do is I just I line them up so that they're all matchy and even. And I'm going to do both of these steps at the same time so we can turn our beautiful pouch and see it in all its beautiful glory. So what we'll do is we're just going to sew down these seams. If you wanted to, I thought something might be nice is you could even add some decorative rivets if you wanted to, but I'm just going to sew directly on the line that I already sewed. So it's going to be 1/8 of an inch away. I'm going to make sure I back stitch at the top and the bottom. Sides are sewn, everything's in place. Let's flip it inside out. Push my fingers in there to kind of push everything out, flatten the bottom. It looks great. My moths are a little too low. They're better on this side. I'm not the best with getting those moths perfectly. I'm not good with that kind of stuff. But let's look at all these different sizes. I want to see if they'll all fit in each other. And this would be, oh my gosh, they do. Oh my gosh, this will be the perfect gift. But will I give all 3 of these to someone or will I want to keep them for myself? I don't know, but they all 3 fit inside. That's so cute. I wonder if Sylvie knows that. Sylvie, comment and let us know if you knew that they all fit. I bet you did know that, of course. But you can see they are all beautiful. All three sizes. They're great sizes. I mean, that large is really big. And then the small is super cute. So whichever size you want, it's going to be perfect. Anyway, this pouch is called the Mirum pouch. It is from Lacus Designs. All the fabric that I used is from Oh So Lovely, and it is a canvas print, and I'm going to have the links for everything in my description. Super fun pouch, super quick sew, great for gifts, great for craft shows, whatever you need to make it for. And thank you again for watching another tutorial of mine. So thank you again for watching another tutorial. I hope you guys try out this pattern. I hope you guys have fun sewing something wonderful in your sewing room today, and I will see you again soon.